Hello Guardians, it is Ebontis, and it is May 27th. It is the launch for Duality, and also Xur is in the tower. One quick piece of advice: if you're going to go try to do the new dungeon, you need to actually go talk to Hawthorne in the tower to get the initial quest, and then you'll be able to pick the activity. So I wanted to tell you guys that real quick. Now let's go through Xur's inventory. Again, he's up here in the tower at the hangar. Alright, for the weapon we have the Colony, and this is kind of an OG grenade launcher. Basically, it launches little insectoid robot grenades that they'll launch on the ground, they'll go crawl after somebody and then explode, so they have kind of a cooldown timer. If you don't have Colony, add it to your arsenal. Doesn't tend to break any metas or be the best thing in the world, but it's kind of a meme weapon if you need it. For the hunters, we've got the Wormhusk Crown. Burning Souls. Dodging gives a small health and shield bump, so basically it's a way to dodge and get health back. I'm sure it's got a little bit of a cooldown to it. It's also got a 17 stat in mobility, which is a good stat for hunters and dodging. Everything else is actually reasonable. You've got 9, 11, and 10. While the total is 60 and could be higher, the high bump in mobility for hunters based around something that's for dodging, this is actually not a bad roll, especially if you don't have one. But even if not, maybe you don't have as high mobility stats, so check and see if this is a good one for you. For the Titans, we've got the Heart of Inmost Light. Now, I've been using this thing since Witch Queen came out. Basically, if you use an ability, a grenade, a melee, or a barricade, it empowers the other two abilities. And empowered means the abilities have faster regen, melees and grenades do more damage, and barricades have more hit points. And you can just get a cool cycle of cast a barricade, then your grenade and melee are recharging faster. Then when you throw a grenade, then your melee is recharging faster. Then if you have a ranged melee, chunk that thing out there, the barricade's coming back. It's a nice cycle. I use it all the time. And this thing has 29 in resilience. Now, right now, I don't know how long it's going to last. If you get resilience up to 100, you can get a 40% damage reduction overall. So high resilience for Titans, good for barricade. And while, yes, it is low in recovery, right now, having high resilience is not a bad thing. Some discipline, some intellect, some strength. This is not a bad roll and near one I would recommend, especially with the damage resistance of resilience. Pick this thing up. Resilience is a really good thing to have. This may be a good alternate roll, especially if you're going for a high resilience build. So Titans, this is nearly a must buy for just about everybody. Check your stats and compare, but if you don't own it, make sure you buy it. For the Warlocks, we have Karnstein Armlets. Vampire's Caress. Melee kills instantly restore a large amount of health and continue to restore health afterwards for a short duration. Right now, abilities between solar, finger snaps, and everything else, this is one definitely to consider for Warlocks. A lot of mobility for a Warlocks, which is not my preference. Recovery is where you would want that stat for this to be a good roll, but it does have a high strength roll, which is based around melees for this exotic. So if you don't have it, this isn't the worst one to pick up. You're just going to want to be making up that recovery everywhere else. The high mobility is kind of not necessary, especially that high of a spike. If this was recovery and strength, it'd be a must buy, but as it's mobility and strength, it's one to experiment with, see if you like it, and then probably go for a better roll in the future. All right, for Hawkmoon, you've got a fluted barrel, heavy grip, and a moving target roll. I know moving target for some, especially if you're in PvP, could be a roll that you're looking for. And then if you check out Dead Man's Tale, you've also got moving target. So if moving target's your jam, maybe, but this is going to be steady rounds, which will boost stability but lower range. Arrowhead Break's going to give you a little boost to recoil and handling, and then you got stability and handling. So it's going to be a more stable roll potentially, but depending on how you're firing this thing, it may not be necessary, but both are moving target this week for the exotics. Moving target, moving target. I don't think they'll probably do that again for a while. Alright, so for your weapons, we've got a sidearm with snapshot sights and hip fire grip. Those are just counterintuitive. You do have a bow. It's not going to be the fastest draw time in the world, but Archer's Tempo and Demolitionist, not a bad way to go for a bow. If you don't have a kinetic with Archer's Tempo, not a bad one to pick up and throw in your vault. For Eternal Blazon, you've got full auto, which is kind of mostly wasted in my opinion, unless you just like that. But Disruption Break on an Arc Scout Rifle. If you don't have an Arc Scout Rifle, at least buy this thing, throw it in your vault. It's not the worst thing to have as a backup in case you need specifically an Arc Scout Rifle. Sniper Rifle with hipfire grip, that's not one that I can see a lot of use for. Firmly planted on a Sniper Rifle. If you are really good at like sliding into a lane and getting shots off, more power to you. This is just not one I would personally be using. Now you got Field Prep and Firing Line on a machine gun. Machine gun's got a buff. You've also got Light Mag in here, and you've got Fluted Barrel for a little stability and handling speed with reload. Field Prep is more reserves, which is always a good thing for machine guns, and if you're crouched, you can actually get a faster reload as well. Firing Lane, bonus damage when you're around other people. This is not a bad roll. Consider this one for sure. You might actually want to pick this up. Depending on your arc machine gun situation, this is actually pretty solid. Finally, we've got Royal Entry. Field Prep, not a bad thing per se. Again, for some of the stuff I just mentioned, especially for fast reloads, but Unrelenting on a rocket launcher, not anything I would specifically depend on. Now let's see about the armor. All right, for the Titan, we've got a very high spike here in resilience. It is very high in intellect, which, again, if you're going into resilience, not quite as necessary. I would lean more into abilities at this point than your super, which is eventually going to get there. But still not a terrible roll if it's like, you know, if you're early new to the season. Right here, you got a 62, decent recovery, decent intellect, strength, some resilience, kind of a middle rounder one. For 61, again, high resilience, high strength, low discipline, but you've got a little recovery in there. And 63, high resilience, decent recovery, decent strength, not wasting much of mobility. Depending on what stats you've got, like these are decent boots, actually, very spiky here for the resilience. If you're going for that max resilience build, this may not be a bad one to go for. We're lacking recovery on a couple of these, so be careful how much you get away from recovery. But resilience is very powerful now, so definitely not one to completely skip over. All right, for the Warlocks, most of this is bad. No recovery at a 59, no recovery at a 60. A 59 stat roll still probably not worth it. You technically have a 61 here with some recovery, intellect, and strength, depending on your build. It's not awful, but again, nothing here that's like really exciting or very spiky. Hunters at least did get a couple of pieces that are actually pretty worth it. You got a 64 with mobility, recovery, some decent intellect and strength. So if you masterwork this thing, you're going to have 10 discipline, 10 strength, 18 recovery, 18 intellect, and 16 mobility. This is a really solid roll for a hunter, especially the way what typically the stats that you're looking for might be a very good buy for a lot of people. And then here on the chest, it's very similar. Decent intellect, a little lower on the discipline, a little higher on the strength. Not a bad thing for hunters. Some mobility and a good spike in recovery. Again, both of these are very good for hunters for the armor stat. I don't normally cover 801 in a Xur video, but she has a couple of mods. If you don't have bolstering detonation, grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade. Something, depending on your build, you might be able to get in there. But Supreme Wellmaker for a stasis build is extremely good. So if you don't have this for a stasis build and a well build, make sure you pick it up as well. But that pretty much does wrap it up. I'm going to go jump into the dungeon now. So I'll be live on my Twitch account, twitch.tv/Ebontis. The new dungeon is live. So go to Hawthorne, pick up the quest, and good luck in the dungeon. As soon as I can get a guide out on it, I will. Other than that, thank you guys for tuning in. If you did enjoy the video, drop a like below. Leave a comment if there's something I should have shouted out that I didn't. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's Ebontis. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, which I know a lot of you aren't, hit that subscribe button, hit the alert bell. Still lots of guides coming to you from me. And those of you who are YouTube subs or Patreon members, thank you very much. YouTube members or Patreon subs, sorry, switch that. Thank you for the extra support. All of you are awesome. Hope to see you on Twitch.